Welcome to the second edition of CNBC Connect.
Managing Asia was back at the invite-only event in Bangkok, Thailand, where I spoke with 3 leaders from different industries on how they are transforming for tomorrow. Hello everyone, welcome to the special Managing Asia panel, Transforming for Tomorrow. I've got a distinguished panel of leaders before me today here in Bangkok. Each of them brings with them a wealth of knowledge, experience, and most importantly, passion to the table. They are not just CEOs and founders, they are change makers, industry disruptors, and visionaries in their own right, all charting their own course for a better and more sustainable future. Let's talk about AI and its ability to transform the business. Rosalind, I'd like to start with you first, because as an insurance healthcare startup, it's all about getting that data, isn't it? And how hard was it for you to do that at the beginning?
Yeah, so AI requires massive amounts of data to work well, but if you know insurance and healthcare, it's still very paper intensive, but also complex because there's regulations on data privacy and customer consent. So to start, we had to build the pipes, the infrastructure to even capture the data over the employee journey, because paper, you can't do AI.
Did you ever think you needed to build the pipes?
Yeah, so we started with the pipes. We didn't know that it would take a decade to build the pipes, but it did. And once you capture the data, then you can use AI to actually predict future disease patterns and interventions.
Tadahiro-san, you're also using AI in some way to prevent accidents at your construction sites, aren't you?
Yes. So we have a huge record in the past of this one, but they're handwritten in the past. So we're trying to digitize all that data. So by using all those data, maybe we can say, okay, this day it was a cloudy day, certain humidity, certain temperature, this type of construction work, this accident happened. So if we have all the collected data, we can advise the construction site. So hopefully we can prevent accidents. So I'd much rather spend the money up front to do the prevention instead of try to fix it afterwards. Yeah.
Stefan, what about you in your industry? AI versus blockchain. Which one is more transformative for you in the supply chain management?
So definitely AI. Our industry is more complex, and we have 18 touch points from order to cash. So our industry is still rather manual. Think about the pandemic, basically, right? All the automation, all the AI, nothing has worked anymore because the interfaces were always human beings, basically, right? So you need to have a certain infrastructure. Then the fundamental question is, where do we store our data? And I think Rosalind was talking about. So you need to have the data in the cloud first, right? In one repository. And what is important to understand as well, if you run a company of our size and with our magnitude, then all of our IT people, they're not used to run an AI type of workshop, right? You need to bring different people, different mindset, different leaders into it, because otherwise you will not leverage that, right? It will take time, but if you don't start now, you will not be part of the winners or part of the companies who are leveraging that successfully in the next years to come.
From where you sit in Europe, when it comes to AI adoption, where does Europe stand versus Asia?
So I would say Europe is in third place after US and Asia, right? We are not the first or early adopters in terms of the new technology is concerned normally, right? We are in certain areas followers, and Asia is much more advanced in certain areas, of course, right? So what we can or should do as Europeans, we should learn, understand, talk in order to leverage technology which is already in use in other geographical areas, right? So I would say Europe is a little bit behind in that respect.
A little bit behind. Yeah. Let's get a show of hands from the floor from the audience. How many of you agree that AI adoption here in Asia is going to be something keen for the whole world to watch? Asia is going to be the one leading it. Can we have a show of hands, please? There you go. They all agree that Asia is going to be the one leading AI adoption. Okay, so we all know that investing in AI is a big part of the transformation process, but whether it's spending money on AI, spending money on green technologies, how as CEOs do you balance the financial goals with what you spend on transformation and sustainability efforts? How do you juggle that? Tadahiro-san, I know this is something you're grappling with. You've just approved a major investment that cuts down CO2 emission at your factory. It was a real difficult decision for you. Why?
Well, I knew it was the right thing to do. My factory wants to reduce the CO2 emission, so they wanted to buy the hydrogen generating machine to use the solar energy to make hydrogen. Then I calculated, and it's going to take 100 years to recover the investment. But I convinced the board it's okay to do it because we have an edge in using the technology already. So I went ahead.
That's a long runway you have.
Yeah.
100 years. Rosalind, you don't have that kind of runway, do you? 100 years for that payback.
If I can prevent disease, I can live to 100.
So what are some of the challenges you face?
When we think about unsustainability, healthcare costs last year rose 13% in Southeast Asia. That's unsustainable for companies because it's faster than salary growth and inflation. So we only win clients if we can help them control this. And with a fixed healthcare budget, they can. Also, we built the wallet so that companies can use it to reward employees if they get healthier, if they lose weight, if they stop smoking, or they reverse their blood sugar. So we're building a mechanism so that companies' employees can get healthier and they can cut costs.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about something that CEOs face as well. Geopolitical and economic risks that you face as you make those changes to transform your company, which could actually reverse all your hard work. And Stefan, I want to begin with you because every time there is a war, supply chain disruption, social unrest, you're the first one to feel it.
Yeah, and because we are very close to this, right? Generally speaking, complexity is helping us because as more complex, as more difficult the world becomes, as more they ask for high-end products and high-end solutions.
Rosalind, what do you worry about most?
So healthcare changes when government makes changes. Singapore just changed the law. And I think when Singapore goes, Southeast Asia will go because their healthcare budget exceeded their defense budget. So I believe the regulations will change throughout Southeast Asia and maybe Asia because people are aging in every country. This is only going to get worse. So I worry about that, but it helps me because now we're all aligned.
Tadahiro-san, what do you fear most?
Well, so my company and myself, we try to be as sustainable as possible. Personally, I try not to drink out of a PET bottle because that pollutes. And I carry my chopsticks when I'm in Japan.
Do you carry your chopsticks now with you?
I do. I have it here. Because the throwaway ones I don't use, you know.
He's walking the talk.
But so I try my best, and the company is doing it. But, you know, all that missiles and the tanks moving in the war zones and, you know, U.S. president situation. When one person becomes that, he says he's going to leave the Paris Accord. And
You're talking about Donald Trump.
I'm not saying anybody, but you know, all the little things we're trying to do is like 100 times negated by such action. So I worry about that a lot. You know.
How do you lead a group of people where you can engage employees at all levels within your organization, help you drive and make that transformation? Stefan, where do you start?
You stay with the company if you really ensure that the leadership is basically taking the right things and take tough decisions in tough times, basically, right? So
what tough decisions have you had to make?
we have decided to give up the entire regional layer, which was an earthquake for this company, basically, after so many decades with this setup. And we basically empowered the national managers, and then now the national managers are reporting into the board directly. That was a tough decision for us, but we have done that because we are convinced that that is protecting the company as the leader for the next 10 years.
Rosalind, as a startup, people, how difficult is that in your industry?
So I'm from a very risk-averse industry, insurance. 75 of my former employees from the industry only rejoined me after we were valued at 100 million US, right? Because now maybe you're safe, right? Otherwise, we're not going to come back.
Are they still with you today?
So I had to make a choice during COVID. I either focus on the software business, where it takes a lot less people, or this very people intensive. So in the end, we had to sell the brokerage business. So you can imagine the sense of betrayal many felt because I had to sell them off since it took so long to convince them. But the business is much more sustainable now as a software business where the banks and the insurers actually use our software and it's their people. So it moved to a much more sustainable business model, but it was a really difficult choice.
And finally, what advice would you give CEOs and leaders in this audience on how to drive and transform for tomorrow successfully? Stefan?
First of all, I think and my advice would be don't manage your company, lead your company, and create a certain leadership culture in your business. That's the first one. Secondly, you need to have a clear strategy. You need to have a view and a purpose. Where do you want to be in the next years to come? Resilience is very important, and be the communicator for your people. I think communication in all companies is absolutely key for a successful journey and tenure for a leader or for a CEO managing a group of people, whether it's small, mid-sized or large, but communication, and we heard it a couple of times, is a key success factor for leading the transformation.
Rosalind?
What I've learned is that having the right strategy is only 10% of transformation, whereas hardcore execution is 90%. But the key part is having a critical mass of talent who can continuously launch quick wins. Otherwise, people don't believe, right? You gotta have true believers, and everyone has to be on this mission because it is an adventure.
Tadahiro-san, what advice would you give CEOs and leaders in this audience?
Most important asset you have is your people, the people that work for you. So make them proud of what you're doing, what your company is trying to do. I always say I'd much rather have 0 accidents, 0 defects than a profit. I'm very clear on that. And I make sure the people that I work for, not just the construction site, but the accounting people, the legal department, everybody should be proud of what she is doing. So, and if you do a good job for your customer and you do the right thing, I think the profit will follow. So, and that's what I like to tell everybody, what I believe.
And on that note, thank you so much to my esteemed panelists for their leadership insights. You've given us plenty to think about. Can we give them a warm round of applause, please?